Hey everyone. Hey everyone. I don't know who's out there. I just thought I would try going live. I've never gone live before, so this is an experiment. So I'm just working on a little winter series painting. It's kind of messed up because actually my camera's flipping by default, so you're seeing everything in reverse. But I'm doing this little, this little winter painting of a tree in the snow. I'm using this funny little detailer brush right now, like a little rigger, only because I need to buy more brushes, to be quite honest. But the thing that I'm actually really liking about this one, and the reason why I love riggers, is because I'm getting these really neat little lines. So I actually feel like it's serving me quite well right now. I'm using acrylic paint. I'm using the Tri Art paints. And I think I can pretty much do this painting with like 4 colors. I've got 2 blues, a cool and a warm. So I've got a cerulean blue and a ultramarine. And I've got a pyrrole orange. Oh, I am using some Liquitex. So I'm using also a pyrrole orange. It's this one. And then I'm using a cadmium yellow. So what I want for this painting in the end is like a backlit tree. So there's going to be a lot of sun coming through here. We don't see it yet. I'm actually just in the color blocking phase. So I'm just kind of like getting some of my blocking in some of my shadows and stuff. And yeah, just trying to get a sense of like color and color movement and other things in this painting right now. So I just sketched it out on my canvas before I started working. I do kind of like to sketch so I know what I'm doing. I do a lot of digital sketching on my iPad. I have Procreate, so that's where a lot of my background work happens before I go to Canvas. And then when I'm happy with compositions, I just draw them out. Or sometimes if I'm lazy, I just print it out and trace it, because after I've drawn it once, sometimes I don't feel like drawing it again. But that's just me. Sometimes you get some interesting stuff though if you like draw it again. It's never exactly the same, but quite close. And sometimes there's happy accidents, and sometimes it's a mess. So yeah. Some things else that I do on Procreate that's kind of fun is, for example, I'll make like a few assets. It's almost like I used to work in the video game industry as a 3D artist, and we would have these massive banks of like 3D assets that all the artists would use to drop into their levels. And then obviously we had to do a lot of custom work, but there was a huge chunk of it was assets that were already created. And then it made it really quick to build up your game level and really efficient, which the company always likes because then it saves time and money. So I actually kind of adopted some of those habits in my painting practice and my sketching practice. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually just create a whole bunch of assets in advance. So like trees and rocks and grass and snow piles and whatever I think I'll need for a current series. And then I just use those. So I'm not having to fully draw everything every time. I'll often just drag things in and manipulate them either in Photoshop or in my Procreate and change the shape of them and place things in different positions for cool compositions. Usually they're fairly colored already, but sometimes they're not the correct color. So then I'll just do like color adjust and lighting adjust, and then color and lighting, and then I will just sort of draw the in-between stuff. It saves me a lot of time and hassle, and it really helps me with series when I'm wanting to do like consistent series. Actually, I want more white on there. Because I don't have to like redraw every single thing every time, and I get a really consistent look throughout my body of work. So that's always really freaking cool as a method of working. So one thing that I think about a lot when I'm actually painting or sketching are my color compositions and my value compositions. So punchy colors and punchy lighting are always winner. They attract a lot of attention, and anything that's high contrast is always going to jump off the wall at you. For a while, when I was looking at my works, because it's really important to be able to critique your own work, and I was looking at it and I found them all to be quite cool in color tones. So my color compositions weren't as strong as they probably should have been. So I started really trying to focus on getting very good balance between my warms and cools, and really trying to aim as much as possible for complementary color palettes. So you'll kind of see that starting to happen in here. So what I'm wanting is a strong glow from behind this tree in here, casting a lot of light onto the ground. So anything in the shadow, I'm going to keep in the cool blue and purple tones. And then anything that's coming into the lights is going to tilt towards the yellow and oranges. So that will give me a complementary palette of essentially purples and yellows, but also blues and oranges. And yeah, there's gonna be light coming down through these areas here, but I don't wanna actually do it too much yet because it's just acrylic and it's gonna dry clunky, so I'm gonna wait until after. But for example, I'm gonna just like throw in some of this tree. I might go really, really hot on some of these colors and maybe not too much. So I'm like mixing up a really vibrant orange right now. If it is too saturated, I will just add some of my blue to it to desaturate it. But I really want some hot colors coming through. And you can kind of exaggerate to begin with and then push things back a bit later. It's always nice to have some really intense brights down, and if they're too much, it's easy to cool them off or darken them with glazes. So these background trees are going to be quite a bit hotter. So there's always like a block-in phase, and this is sort of where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to sort of establish what's happening in this painting. Obviously, I'm going to have to go lighter on these edges after, because I want the sun to be really hot around here. But I'm just sort of aiming for generalized hue at the moment, and then I will adapt the exact saturation and value a little bit later. But this will give me something really nice for all of this paint to sit on. And then obviously it's going to get darker as we go up away from that light. But again, I'm just going to throw in this orange for now. And I can also go cooler on the sides away from the light as well. This tree, I'm going to have a little bit cooler. I don't want this to be like flat composition, so I do want to play with my values. I'm going to add a little bit of blue in here already. It's a bit better. It had gone too far, but now I've kind of brought it back to where I want it. I have to redraw this. I'm not really sure what I did there. It's fine. One thing I like about drawing things out first is that I don't get stuck on my references after. I already have a pretty good idea of where I'm going with these, so I find it a lot more freeing in the end to not have to be obsessed with a reference image. And this is just a smaller flat brush that I'm using right now. And then because this tree especially, I want it to be quite backlit just to really give that contrast. So it's actually going to be quite a bit darker than these trees that are in here. Put a little bit of shadowing on this side. I think I want it a little bit hotter, a little bit more red in there. Again, just trying to establish some overall colors. I don't want to be too picky at this point. There's going to be a whole bunch of branches and stuff in here. You can see it kind of skirtled. Bring some of these notes into here, but not too much, just sort of to bring these more in harmony. Sometimes I get really quiet. It's actually really hard to keep talking while you paint. I like to get in the zone quite a bit. And as much as I love filming and sharing, I do find it harder to kind of stay in the zone while I'm explaining and painting at the same time. But I always really love having company too when I paint. So that's awesome if anyone is tuned in to this today. I'm happy to be sharing this time in the studio with you. I find like paintings just go through a phase where they look terrible. I think it's just how it is. I think when you get more experience, you just kind of accept that phase and you're just kind of okay with it. And then you just kind of know that eventually the painting is going to look fabulous. But sometimes as I'm working, I'm just like, what am I doing? This is terrible. And it's usually at this phase, but I also know that it's essential and I know where I'm going. So that always helps. There needs to be a trunk over here. I do like to paint around the sides of my canvas right away. I like to carry the painting around. It just looks so much more professional, and I do not like going back and trying to remix my colors. That drives me nuts. I'm going to take a smaller round brush. Ooh, there we go. Smaller round brush. And mix up some green. So because these are in sort of direct sunlight, I am going to keep them quite bright, but also I'm going to add a tiny bit of warmth to them with my orange. So I'm basically, I call it an orange green, which is maybe a very weird word, but that's essentially what it is. If ever it's not opaque enough, you can add white, but then I would just overcompensate them by adding more yellow and whatever other colors you need in there. But yellows are not always all that opaque, and that can sometimes lead to strange overlapping. I just want to kind of block this in here. There's not a lot of detail yet. just want to kind of get an idea of this color into here. Where that sun is hitting on these little branches back in here. And maybe some over on this side. So paintings generally take quite a while to do, even if you're kind of fast at them. I always wish it would go faster. The amount of time versus the amount that you can get for a painting don't always add up. I find something about this size is likely going to take me about 8 hours, so there's no way I'm going to be able to do this all live with you today. However, I will be giving a class on how to paint basically this exact scene, although I think we'll just do a different tree, but we'll do the exact same idea. I want to do a series of these, but I don't want to do the same painting twice. But we'll do something really, 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 really similar. And I will leave a link below for my website where you can sign up for that. I'm going to be starting that at the end of January. So if you're interested in learning how to paint a very cool, very dynamic winter tree, I would love to have you join. I need some more yellow, so I'm gonna grab some more of that and I'm gonna mix it to some more of my blue. This time I've actually added or grabbed a little bit of my ultramarine with it because it's a purple blue, and it is going to add it's going to be a cooler green. It's too much. So if I want to go warmer and more vibrant, then I push toward the red. And if I want to go cooler, I push toward the purple with my greens. So sometimes I mix what I call a purple green. So I've got an orange green and a purple green going. This one isn't quite dark enough yet, but I can absolutely fix that later. I just want to start blocking in. Actually, I'm going to grab some of this. And start blocking in where some of these little branches are going to go. That's better. And then I want some snow to come in on top of these too, so I'll be layering all of that in. I'm not too careful at this phase. I just really want to get a sense of where things are moving. I find my paintings have gotten a lot better since I've gotten a lot less precious with them. It's taken me a really long time to get there, and I feel like it's kind of an ongoing struggle. But my main goal right now is to just fill my canvas with paint and not be too precious about it and get an idea of how the colors and the value are going to move across the canvas. And then later I will go in and add the detail and the adjustments that I need to make it really work. bring some of these branches in across the top here. And I think I will go into some more brown. So I've already got a green going here. If I add some orange to this, it's going to push it more in toward the brown family. So now I've got like a really earthy green. Actually, I'm going to add some more orange to that a little bit, just to bring this a little bit warmer. This is sort of where we're getting into those deeper branches back into here. So the light's going to be bouncing off wood, which is warmer than the green. Kind of like doing a puzzle. I think that's why I like doing these. Painting is like a puzzle. It's just, you're not working with something that someone's already laid out for you. You're just kind of making the puzzle or the sort of the challenges up as you go. Because there's always challenges in painting. So I just need a really dark color. So I literally just grabbed some of my blue and my orange there. I will say though that I've got some white mixing because I'm essentially just going really quick and being a really sloppy mixer right now. I'm not really too worried. I just want to get color and value down. So it kind of helps with getting a bit of randomness in those colors. With acrylics, you don't need really expensive brushes. I tend to use pretty cheap brushes, actually. I will say I've had a lot of these for a very long time. So they're sort of getting a little bit dog-eared, and I'm not getting the precision that I used to get with them. One thing that's cool about that is it's kind of forcing me to be an even looser painter, but also I think I'm going to grab some more brushes next time I'm at the art store, just so that I can have some precision on the subsequent layers of this when I sort of do my detail work. These ones are a little bit fat. Okay, so I think I'm just going to, let me see, grab this one. It's not bad. Oh, this one had oil on it. I do mix my brushes sometimes between watercolor and acrylic, but you cannot go the acrylic oil route. So I'm just gonna grab a bigger detailer, I guess, that's got no oil paint on it. So if I really want to make the light in the snow here read as bright, white is an incredibly powerful color, but it's also a very tricky color in that by itself doesn't look very bright. So sometimes it's actually easier to play with your temperature. So by adding a bit of orange to this and yellow to make it a bit more pink, look a lot brighter than a straight white color. So on these, and then I can add like a pure white on top later. for my lightest light, but I'm definitely going to take a warmer color that's not white. It's still like, it's knocked back a few values. And also with the warm sun coming through, it's going to give a sense that that light is falling across the snow here. And there's different things that I'm going to have to do. Like I'm going to have to sort of haze out this area. And I can do that with veils because this goes into the distance. So I don't want it to be so crisp. Yeah, and I can do that with white paint, but very thinly applied, and it's called a veil. And then for the shadows, I can use glazes to make them darker and change their color. Whatever you put down to begin with is not how it has to stay. Acrylic is incredibly flexible with how you work. And I like it because it dries so quickly, unlike oil. So oil strength, I like using oil because it blends very well and very easily. But it's hard to get actually really, really fine detail and really, really crisp lines just by the way the paint goes down and the way it dries and sort of the consistency of it. Acrylic, that's its strength, is quick application, quick drying, and very crisp edges. So the problem is, though, if you want to do something that's quite blendy or blended, it's better to use oil. So I'm actually, I've chosen to stylize my acrylic paintings and keep things a little bit more hard edge just because of the way the material handles. Whereas with my oil paintings, I allow them to get nice and blended. Sometimes I hear people saying acrylic or easier or oil or easier, but it's really what you're trying to do with the paints, really, that make it hard or easy. And I think it's best just to use the paint type for its strength. And you just kind of decide in advance what type of painting you want to do and then choose the appropriate type of paint to accomplish that. Bring some, let me see. Bring some in here. These are shadows. Some of them are a bit dark right now. I'm going to go in after and add some nuance. Again, I just want to have color down so that my paint has something to sit on. My next layers of paint have something to sit on. I haven't totally decided what's going on in here. This little kind of messy area. I think it's the bottom of this tree and then some brambles and some light coming in from over here. So I need to be careful here because if I go same color on same color, same value on same value, it's just going to disappear. So what I can do is have a cool white coming across where my warm yellows are, and then have a warm white on top of my cool blues where the skies are. And then that will create something that is dynamic and easier to read. I'm just gonna go in and, whoops, too much water. I do usually use a little bit of water when I'm painting with acrylic, though not too much. I don't want to degrade the binds of the paint, but I do need it to move on my canvas, so I do use a little bit. Things don't look luminous unless they're contrasted against something that is dark. So playing light against dark in your composition is really, really important. There's always like pictorial space composition, which is sort of your arrangement of elements in your painting. And then there's value composition, which is the composition of the lights and the darks in your painting. And then there's color composition, which is the contrast between warm and cool and the overall use of color. So you don't actually need that many colors either, because juxtaposing things can give you variations that, like, the brain sees things as more complex than it is. Add some subtle greens to the north side here. That was probably way too much. I'm gonna have to put a highlight side on there after, but right now I just want to make sure that I know where my edges are of this tree. And as you can see, I'm doing some fairly messy color mixes in my piles, and it's giving me some really interesting variations that I wouldn't have been able to do had I have been trying or thinking too much about it. So I'm going to go and warm some of these areas up a little bit, because I'm going to have to put a cool in shadow snow patch on the tops of this side of my trunk. And I think it's going to be easier to have that read if it's playing off a warm color. So the cool and the warm. Even in here, so like little trick that I can do here. Clean this off a bit. So in here, I need some shadowed snow that is bright. But right now I have only, well, right now I have like very subtly two different blues. I'm going to grab more of my ultramarine, which is a purple blue, and then I'm going to take a bit of my orange again, but a little bit less, just enough to kind of like knock down the saturation. And actually, it's surprising, adding this orange to this blue actually makes pretty deep purple. It's kind of weird, but it does. So I can just take some of this and go in and add some extra shadowing through here. So when I add my cooler, or warmer, sorry, when I add my warmer blues over that, they're gonna be contrasted. And then this also kind of just desaturates the color as well. I just added a bit of white in there and I'm just kind of blending it out. Go into here, maybe. I kind of want a lot of stuff going on here, but I can always add it in after. I just want like a lot of little roots and things. I really want to make some good contrast points. See, already it's helping those areas stick out. That's just because of the value change, but when I then go and add the temperature change on it, it's gonna really pop. And then I'll inevitably go over all of this again with a Payne's Gray, just to add some extra depth and darkness to it. I always finish off my paintings with glazes of Payne's Gray. In nice and strategic areas. It's pretty sad in BC right now. There's been no snow for all of us people who like to go skiing or snowboarding. It's kind of been canceled this year. I'm hearing it's sort of similar in the interior also. It's unfortunate. It's global warming. It's going to get worse. This year is particularly bad because I think it was an El Nino year. Okay, so now that that's done, just to show you kind of the impact of this, if I take now the more yellow blue and I want to add some shadows, here, that's maybe a little bit too dark. But now see that green sitting against that purple really stands out. If if you keep the values close together, you can actually get things to kind of disappear. Kind of soften those edges by using value and color instead of actually blending. I'm just creating some shadows. Again, I'm doing this right now on the top layers, but I will likely do this again with glazes. And I want some color that's fairly close to white. So these little mounds of snow here that are accumulating on these branches, they're going to be catching the skylight, which is cool. Even though they're in the shadow, they're going to have some light on them from the sky. But anything that I have in direct sunlight, I'm going to be using that warmer color. I work in an art store. I work at Dessert in Vancouver, and we always get people coming in that are taking classes. Doesn't matter the medium, any medium, happens every medium, and the teacher will lay out colors for the class, and then the students get really, really, really stressed if they can't find the color that they're looking for, and it happens quite often actually. That I don't know, we're out of stock or whatever it is. Problems with the shipments from the company and they can't find something in the whole city. But really, if you learn to look at color, you can get the job done with something similar. It doesn't always have to be totally exact. So like, I always look at what's under my colors or where it's heading, the direction that it's heading on the color wheel. So for example, my ultramarine is heading toward the purple or red side of the color wheel. Even though it's a blue, it's really kind of a purple. So you could get away with another blue, like a smalt blue, for example, is another purpley blue. It's a bit darker and less vibrant. Ultramarine is kind of like it's the classic, but you can get away with other colors that are sort of tending in the same direction. It doesn't always have to be exactly what your teacher said. So if you sort of look at where the color is tending, you can definitely find workarounds if you can't get a certain color, and it'll just take the stress out of it, and I think you'll just have like more fun that way. I hate seeing people stressed when they don't have to. And sometimes we'll tell them, you know, it doesn't matter, you can use whatever color XYZ as a substitute, but they're wanting to follow the teacher's instructions by the letter. And I get it, because like it's easier to follow, and if you don't feel really secure yet in the choices. But taking a slightly different purple blue over another one is not going to make or break a painting. It's the actual relationships and the way that the colors are mixed that sort of dictate how the painting's going to go. And so again, like I'm contrasting right now. I've got the green yellow or the green blue mixed with white behind here. And now I'm going over because the snow is accumulated on these and it's backlit. So I need a blue. If I had to use the same blue, it would disappear, but because I'm using a mix with my ultramarine instead, then it's showing up. We can see it. And that's all about temperature relationships in your color mixes. And so if I want to make these shadow edges disappear a little bit more, so they look a bit more rounded, because the colors in the shadow that I put underneath here are purpley, I can now mix some of this ultramarine in. And so now I have a blue that is turning purple into my shadows, and a blue that is turning toward the yellow into my highlights. And I think I'm going to stop there. So thank you for tuning in. I don't actually know if I can switch my camera around. I'll have to figure that out soon. But thanks for stopping in and checking this out so far. Again, I will be teaching this class at the end of January. So I'll put a link to my website if you want to check that out. Have a great evening, guys, and off to the gym I go.